Hello, welcome to Poppin Predictions, where we believe movies aren't over at the end, but are meant to be continued. You're here with Andy and Marqueze, where we find out what happens in a story once the credits begin to roll. Marqueze, how does it feel to be back? We back, baby! Woo-hoo! We're gonna take this seriously sometimes.
Sometimes.
We've got episodes planned, but we're really excited. Amongst the new things that we have here, before we get into today's episode, I gotta share a couple things. We've got 4 episodes planned, and on top of that, we have a new addition to the Poppin Predictions hosting crew. The one, the only, Gil the Gillionaire.
Oh, hey!
Oh, okay. Like a delayed joining the crew here, but hey, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Welcome to the crew. Gil, why don't you go ahead and just plug yourself? Let us know. Let the listeners know what you're about.
Yo, yeah, I'm just some dude. I was just walking down the street one day,
We found him off the street.
and Andrew said, "Hey, man, you need some money?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take anything you got, man." And I don't know what I'm doing here. I just was told to show up with a mic and headset, and yeah, I'm just here. I've known these guys for years now. They're great. We used to work together, kind of grown apart just through distance because of life stuff. But here I am reuniting with the boys, and I love watching movies. I've been a big fan of Poppin Predictions, so it's really great to be on the podcast with y'all. I'm really excited.
Yeah. We're glad
and if you're a fan, maybe you could join the podcast one day too. Who knows?
Yeah, all right.
You're trying to get this is Gil's first episode, and you're already trying to get rid of him.
They're trying to kick me out.
I'm just saying.
Gil, I'm going to give you a shot. I'm going to give you a shot. I don't know about Marqueze. Marqueze, this is the one episode to make it work. So, no, I'm joking. Well, we're glad to have you. Glad to have you. So, so we're going to talk about what we're going to do. You can probably see in the title of this episode. But we're going to do Coco. We've been talking about doing this for years back when we originally did it, but now we finally got around to it. It's the week of Halloween. We are getting close to it, so it just feels right to do Coco this time of year. So, Coco, for those who don't know, is about an aspiring musician named Miguel confronted with his family's ancestral ban on music. He enters the land of the dead to find his great-great-grandfather, a legendary singer. Coco, back when it came out in 2017, has actually won 2 Oscars. I don't know if y'all know that. It won 2 Oscars, one for best music, like one for best music in a motion pictures film for its song "Remember Me," which was definitely a tearjerker we'll talk about. And then the other one was best animated film. This Oscars came out. Both of them came out in 2018. So Coco is rated PG. You can watch it on Disney Plus, and yeah, it's definitely a really good movie. So, Marqueze, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of a breakdown? I know that description kind of was small on purpose. I want to kind of hear your description of Coco.
Yeah. Well, first, before I even describe the movie, let me put it like this: I have been waiting to watch Coco for a minute, yo. I mean, when did this movie come out?
2017.
2017. God. Really? 7 years ago?
Yeah, it's been out for a while.
Okay, so it really has been a cool minute. I've been trying to watch this movie.
Because remember, we launched Poppin in 2020, and it came out, for 2021, 2020, 2021. So it was kind of an older movie, like old already in terms of Disney Plus, Disney standards. So now it's like, what are we doing here? But it's definitely a good movie here. I'm glad we got to it.
So anywho, finally we're getting around to watching it. I'm a huge fan of Pixar movies in general, and I heard this one was a tearjerker. Like, people had been telling me Coco's a tearjerker, so I was like, all right, let's see what this is. So having finally watched, you know what? First, I'll give us a little description, right? So like you said, there's this boy named Miguel, right? He's over here. All he wants to do is play music. He's great at guitar, likes playing music, all this stuff. But his family is a no music family. They do not mess with music. because of some, family trauma, generational trauma, but normal stuff. We'll get that later. But he wants to play music, isn't allowed to play music. Long story short, in trying to try out for, this music contest or whatever, he finds himself stealing a guitar from like a famous guitar legend, dead guitar legend. Oh, he's dead. I want to make that clear. But anywho, tries to steal this guitar from him, and then finds himself, across now in like the land of the dead, and he's meeting up with like old family members, and like it's this whole adventure story of him trying to, find this famous guitar player in order to like give him his blessing so he could go back to his family and play guitar and be a musician and all these different things, right? But along the way, there's all these hurdles and obstacles. But in general, the movie heavily is based upon family and family values and valuing your family and appreciating your family. And, kind of that struggle between doing what you want, finding out who you are, but then your loyalty to your family and particularly your ancestors. That's something that was very specific with this movie. It's not just family loyalty in general, but loyalty to the dead as well. How much your family members of the past have an effect on who you are and then what you're supposed to be doing and how your life is going to play out, which that's something I feel like we don't see a lot, even in, Pixar type genre. Usually if it is like a family focus or whatever, it's on the loved ones who are here. Whereas this was the first time I really saw a focus on loved ones who aren't here. And it highly surrounds itself around Dia de los Muertos, for celebration, festivities and all that. And so it was like this was like something I was very unfamiliar with, like culturally, and so getting to like just like learn more about like the like holiday in itself and getting to learn more about just like the culture and beliefs and like why like the ancestors are so important. Like that's not something that's like super tied in with like my type of culture and whatnot. And so it was new for me, and 1000% this is a tearjerker. Oh my gosh. Waterworks the last 10-15 minutes of this movie. So yeah, Gil, what you thinking, man?
Honestly, I was so excited that this movie was chosen because I was a ball of tears. You mentioned the last 10-15 minutes. I was a ball of tears, dude. I ran out of tissues. I was using my sleeve, using my cats, like everything to just dry these tears. So I honestly, one of the better movies I've seen by Pixar. Maybe I'm biased, but I love music, and so I was just really connected to that aspect. And I don't know, just the animation. Like you mentioned that they won awards for the animation. I can tell, like the way,
good.
the vibrancy, the movement.
I only highlighted the Oscars, but this movie has won, like when I was doing my research, I think they've won like 112 awards in the different types of like award shows and stuff like that or different academies that are out there. Like this is definitely a really, I mean, it's Pixar, of course. So anything Pixar is gonna, I don't want to say everything. A lot of things Pixar do end up winning a lot of awards, whether that's Oscars or different ones. So it definitely, I think it's crazy because this is not the first time I've seen this movie. I think I've seen this movie maybe 3 or 4 times just throughout my life. And like the first time I saw it definitely was really hard. And it's been like a couple of years since I've last seen Coco. And I know what happens in the movie. And it's like, I'm sitting there, like Susan is on the couch next to me. I don't know if she's watching a movie, she's reading a book, or she's just like on her phone. She's like doing something. And I'm just like sitting there on the couch at the end of the movie, and I'm just like trying to choke back tears.
It's real, dog.
It's real.
Yeah,
it's real. I mean, we're gonna talk more about the ending like later on, but like not to get like too sentimental about this, but like my grandparents passed away like not that long. Like my grandma passed away almost a year at this point, and like she was somebody who like. She was 95 when she passed away, and she was that type of person like you thought she was going to live forever, and then just life happened, and so like, and she was really big into music herself. Like she loved to go on stage and perform in shows. Like she had like video cassettes where she would do singing and stuff like that, and so like that final scene when, or not the final scene, but one of the final scenes when you see Miguel singing to Grandma Coco, like, oh, that broke me. That broke me so much. Like, I was just thinking about my grandma the whole time. It was hard. It was hard. So it was great. I loved the movie, and I think as I was watching the movie, I was just like, it's a kids movie. At the end of the day, like Coco was made for kids. It's of course like as adults we can enjoy it, but it's a kids movie. And something that I really like about Coco is that it kind of explains death in a way that isn't scary. In that, like, you know, death is like such like a touchy subject, especially for kids. And you never know like when is the right time to talk about death, like how do you go about it? And I, you know, even if you don't believe in what the movie is showing, I think it's a good introduction point because it's as if the people who die aren't actually dead and they continue on into the next phase. And I think that that's a really good and easy way for young children and just people in general to really grasp the topic, the subject of death. Is that you're gone on this plane, but you move on to the next plane, and you have your own afterlife there too.
One thing I noticed, so in terms of like the dead not just being dead, but like there's some afterlife, there's something, you know, where they're still there. I thought the movie did a really good job focusing on that by particularly using one particular thing. And there's a character, I mean, once again, spoilers already. So if you haven't seen this, spoilers ahead. All right.
Yeah,
it's every episode, every Poppin Directions episode is ready to spoilers ahead. All right, so the dude who ends up actually being Miguel's dad, but there's this, you know, dude, or what's his name again? Hector?
Hector.
Yeah, Hector. So Hector is like the whole point of the movie, like he's fading away. You know, he's fading away, particularly because no one is remembering him. He has one person, his daughter, who's slowly forgetting him. And so because he doesn't have anyone remembering him, he's slowly going away. And when you watch in this like the movie, the whole movie, it's like they're constantly talking about their ancestors. The very beginning of the movie is Miguel telling the story of his ancestors, of his like great grandma and all this like that, right? And so this is a culture where like you very much like acknowledge your ancestors and like you speak about them, you know, their stories, you pass their stories. Like, they live with you as long as you and your family are alive. They live as well. They live through your voice. They live through the stories, all that stuff like that. And so for Hector, the last thing we remember of his family is about to pass, and no one's telling his story anymore. No one's remembering him, and so he's about to vanish from memory and from history. It's like, and he says one line in the movie where he's like, when no one living remembers you, then like that's like the final death, we call it. You're taking death or whatever, you know. And I was like, dang, yo.
That's
so
deep.
It's deep. A couple of things, you know, something that as I was watching the movie like this time around, I thought it was really funny. And Marqueze, you're gonna laugh when I say this, but like the opening sequence where it's explaining Miguel's ancestry. This is like Midsommar, like the way that they not like obviously the plots are completely different, but like
I was like, what?
like the way that it's laid out is like Midsommar has like a fairy tale type of intro sort of sequence thing.
A fairy-tale,
yeah. And like this one, like it was all done on like the Mexican flags and like all that stuff. So it was like done through like a fairy tale. So I was like, oh, this is like Midsommar over here. Like here's my Pixar, Disney
Midsommar.
But as I was watching this movie, you know, Pixar likes to hide details throughout the movie, and so you might be noticing if you're watching this on YouTube, you might be noticing I'm wearing my Pizza Planet T-shirt. It's very quick, it's very subtle, but in one of the opening sequences, you see like a Pizza Planet delivery truck.
You really? In this movie?
Past the window.
No way.
Oh my god!
And there's a part in the movie, early on in the movie, where they have that plaza where Miguel's learning about the contest.
Yeah.
There are Toy Story pinatas. So you see Woody, you see Buzz, you see Jesse, all
I love Pixar.
I was trying to, as I was watching this movie, because I've seen
That's fire.
this movie before, I was trying to spot different things, and I'm sure there was more, but those were the two that I found right away. And I just thought that was just really interesting.
I know Pixar sometimes will drop like Easter eggs for future movies.
Yeah.
So now I want to go back and watch it. Or for anyone watching the movie, if you know where that happens, drop it down below. I'd love to learn.
Yeah, definitely. This movie, touches a lot about legacy. With Ernesto. So before we go further into this podcast, before we go any further, for our listeners, we're talking about people who are like great-great-grandparents, great-grandparents. Assume that we know that like Mama Imelda is the great-great-grandmother. Like, please don't correct us or don't hold us at an expectation. It's like, well, actually, Coco is the great-grandmother, not the grandmother. Like,
he says Mama for all of them, yo.
Just know that we know the difference between like the family tree. So like, I think, but it was just such an interesting take that like Hector was kind of humble throughout the entire movie. Of course, he was like had selfish intentions of like trying to get back, but it was to see his daughter one more time and to like not be forgotten. Whereas Ernesto de la Cruz, like he has a very like kind of like sacrificial layer of legacy where like people love him because they all think that he has developed his like he's a well-established musician.
A great guy.
Exactly. But if you take that away, like he's nothing. He was not like a family person. He was just all
seize the moment.
Seize the moment. So I thought that it was interesting to talk about legacy, and I think something that was unique about Coco is that a lot of times the protagonist is like going after a goal and they're trying to change the older generation's minds, whereas this movie, it was kind of the opposite. Like the older generations were trying to instill that family value to him while kind of going legacy. So I thought that was a pretty cool take on it.
No, hold up. That's actually a good point. That it's where like I noticed while watching the movie, but the way you just described it really made a click of like, every other movie you watch, generally it's like the older generation has some feeling about something and they're not letting the youngest new person of the family do it. And it's like a lot of pushback. And then finally they understand him and why he wants to go be a rock star, wants to, go do everything. And they start to support him and all of this, right? That's how they almost all end. But this one's different. This one is he wants to go do his thing the whole time, blah, 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 blah. And towards the end, he actually starts to realize, oh, wait, like,
Music is important, but family
is way more important. And he was like, even if I disagree with my family about music, it's more important to be with my family, keep them together, than it is for me to go and pursue music. And so, it doesn't like necessarily like invalidate what he wants to do. It just says, there's other priorities. And the priority is right now, it's my ancestor who needs to be remembered. So whatever I need to do to make sure they're remembered, that comes first. And that to me, it's even like seeing Pixar mature itself, of like, this is a much more mature way of looking at it, not like, well, either I get to do what I want to do or, you do, or I have to do what you want me to do. It's more so of like understanding of like a maturing of like, hey, this isn't about what me or you want to do. This is about what needs to be done to best support us in our community, And I was like, man, like, and just the way they did it too, of like, he really, and like, it's not like they do a really good job of like building that up in him, Of like, man, he just, and even still, like once he comes to the realization that he believes Ernesto de la Cruz is his dad, like he really like, even more so, like more than just being a musician, like that's his or not his dad, but he's like,
we already made the disclaimer to everybody. We're good.
And so going, all this like that, and then to find out, oh, like he's not, and that he's like a fraud and a murderer and all this other stuff like that. And so, like, then when he finds out that, like, his own great-great-grandfather is fading away and he has a chance to save him, like, he really has a personal impact on his family tree, even on his dad family tree, you know? And so, yeah, I just thought that was like really, really beautiful and amazing the way they did it. And like his growth over the movie and realizing that is like incredible.
But I think it just really shows that Pixar did their homework and understanding like the Mexican culture and just how much respect for elders is important, and how big family is, and supporting the family. And I think the movie could have very easily been like being very negative towards Miguel and having a different ending with him not doing music. So I did appreciate how they did their homework, understood how family is important, understood the matriarchy, and then still said, well, this is how a family can support someone's passions, but also here's how a kid who's understanding himself and the family can learn to also be more in line with like the family traditions. So I thought Pixar did amazing with that.
Yeah. I know that you mentioned earlier that like this was like a good movie for you. Like, what were some of the things that kind of like jumped out to you?
Yeah.
Or like that made like an impact for you?
Well, I'll first start off with just like my love for music. I can relate to just having a passion for music. I've been playing instruments since I was like 8 years old. I'm 30 now, so do the math there. But how long music has been in my life, and then also just grew up in a family where music wasn't really like a thing. I was the only musician, so I was like, oh, I see myself in this kid. So that's what really hit home for me, and I think talking about like grief is very important. We've all gone through different aspects of that, and then with the pandemic, definitely have experienced grief in different ways. So I really appreciate how they talked about grief and kind of just said like celebrated these moments and said, you know, it's okay to have these feelings. I just thought Pixar did an amazing job with talking about grief, showing the power of memory, and how even when you're in the land of the dead, you still can be alive, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Because you're in the memory of everyone else. And I thought that was really great.
Yeah.
Something that I thought was like never really explained. I know we're hyping up this movie, so it's not even like a serious complaint, but like something that just didn't stand out, like make sense to me, was like they never like it was the land of the dead looked like an entire society, like like it looked like it was its own thing. Like I don't know if everyone had jobs, but people had jobs. And you would think on that holiday that like everyone is trying to go. So it's like, why aren't people like the movie doesn't, to me, like doesn't really explain why there are so many folks that are not trying to cross the bridge. Like I don't know if that bothered you all enough, but like to me like it's just like I was just like, why are there so many of these folks not trying to cross the bridge to see their families? Like, do they just not like their family? Did they not have photos up of them? Like I don't know.
I mean, I would imagine it's probably the photo part. It's like, imagine like there's so many. I mean, obviously there's always people who are like don't have a family, who end up being homeless or whatever. They said, I mean, you have to imagine there's hundreds, millions of people who don't have ancestors to remember them anymore.
Yeah, but then they would be but then they'd be gone. That's the thing. Like, if they didn't have family members to remember them, then they would go through the final death.
Well, there's the difference, right? So he still had somebody to remember him. He couldn't cross over because he wasn't on anyone's, not altar. I can't remember the word that was used, but like he wasn't on anyone's like mantle or whatever. His picture wasn't up there. So like in theory, there could still be all these other people who somebody living has a memory of them, but no one has yet praised or like respected them as like an ancestor yet by having the picture on a mantle.
Yeah, the tradition may be gone.
The tradition may not be gone for that person.
That's fair. Yeah. Do you all feel like there's like tears, like unspoken tears, like an unspoken tear system that's like, oh well, like my family loves me, so they put a photo of me on.
I mean, honestly, probably.
I would be
it feels like. That's what it feels like.
I want to know more. Like that's just what stuck to me is that they were like, and it wasn't like a little like you would think, and this is pun intended. You think it'd be a ghost town on that day. Like you would think that day there'd be no one there, and everyone would be trying to cross the bridge. And like there were a lot of people trying to cross the bridge, but like I don't know, it just seemed so weird to me that there were so many. And I guess I know it's a movie, and I know I'm like jumping too far into it. But like, give me an explanation. Give me some reason why these folks are not. It doesn't even need to be. I don't even care if it's not a well thought out explanation. Just like give me something to like explain why so many people did not cross the bridge.
I'm actually emailing Pixar right now. So.
Thank you.
For me, right? Sorry, I want to make sure this is not an answer to your question. I'm just moving on.
No, He's
like, anyway.
That's nice, Andy. Anyway.
Anyway, let's talk about the movie.
I sound like I was answering your question. Come on, don't have an answer. I can't explain that to you. I'm so sorry. No.
I mean, if you had the answer, I'd be like, wow, okay, I guess I'm just stupid for not seeing it in the first
place. No, what I was going to say is, so speaking on grief, once again, so as I mentioned earlier in the description, he can't play music because of some generational trauma, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So in this movie, his great-great-grandmother has a kid, all that, and her husband leaves to go play music. Just leaves the family. And so from there, at that point on, she hates music, nothing to do with music, finds a way to support her and her family by making shoes. Her whole family becomes like a shoemaking family. This is what they do, blah, 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 right? But, I mean, now we're going down from the great-great-grandmother to the great-grandmother to the grandmother to the mother to now him of we don't mess with music. Like, we don't do music in this house.
You would think that music is a drug. Like, honestly.
You would think it's heroin.
Or like cigarettes or like something like you would think that it was like a hardcore drug. And we're like, we don't mess with that in our family. We're the Rivera. We're the Rivera family. We don't do that here.
Why do like in theory, why do families talk that hard on drugs? Usually that's a family that has had a family member who experienced drugs and it completely wrecked them and the rest of the family's life. So if you now translate that into this movie, what happened? This man goes and plays music and leaves to play music, and that has a forever devastating effect on this woman and her child. So it might as well be drugs, if not worse. Like to her, and like once again, this is where the good old therapy probably would have done some help, but she had some deep trauma from having her husband or boyfriend, whatever, leave her and just leave her with a baby to go pursue music. So for her, the idea of the pursuit of music matches up with not caring about family, not being there for the people you love. Like they're one and the same. Yeah. So to see Miguel even mess around with music is she took a shoe, she started throwing it.
Yeah.
Like to see him even mess with music is such a trigger. And think about it, it's not even triggering the great grandma who had experienced it. Mm-hmm. Grandma who was the daughter. This is triggering the grandma, the current grandma who was not even alive during that time. This is how much that trauma has been passed down to for her, someone who didn't experience this, to see her grandson pick up a guitar is as triggering as it was for the great grandmother. But like, that is some serious trauma being passed down.
It does make me wonder. Like, because I know that Coco, and they explained it earlier that Coco's not really all there. I think she has dementia, so like that could be part of the reason why Coco's not into it. But with how much Coco loves her father, like secretly loves her father, like. You wonder if it's more so like Mama Imelda, which is like the great grandmother passing it down, or if it really or if Coco, when she was more like there, if she also was part of it.
Oh, that is a good question.
But I know, Gil, you were about to say something.
I was gonna say it's interesting that music was what created or was the foundation for like the generational trauma, but it's also what healed the trauma. Yeah. Where well, also with the dementia aspect, music has been shown to really reconnect to core memories and gets people with dementia in a behaving as if they never had dementia. So to me, I found it really like powerful to have the song "Remember Me" be that core scene for this movie.
Yeah, but there's
So
layers to that, obviously.
yeah, there are layers like onions.
So this we're learning that this movie is Shrek. It partnered with DreamWorks. So they partnered with DreamWorks. It's like Shrek meets Inside Out 2, and here we are here. I thought it was, I thought it was really good.
So one thing you mentioned, Andy, is that did you say it won the Oscar for Best Music of that year, or
it won an Oscar for like Best Song, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The official title is Best Achievement in Music Written for Motion Pictures for Original Song "Remember Me."
Okay.
And "Remember Me," like, it's just before we go to that, just like I think that like something I really loved about that song is just that like obviously at the time it was written was for the dad. It was a nursery song for the for the dad to let Coco know like I'm always with you, like you're always there with me, like even if I'm on the road. Turns into what Ernesto, kind of steals the intention of the song to make it more of like a legacy song,
Mm-hmm.
and then it kind of goes back to like real life, like, or real death, like don't forget me, please. I don't want to die forever. Sort of.
I was
Good.
to say the extra layer to that is in the dementia aspect.
Yeah,
Remember
that's what I'm
me.
about to say.
Exactly.
And then Grandma comes on to dementia.
layer.
So
it's
like it really
I love clearly intentional, but it's beautifully done.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you're about to hop somewhere else.
Yeah. So considering that this one, best original music, whatever, there's another very famous Pixar film, highly known for its musicality, Frozen.
Right.
In comparison, purely on a musical basis, which one's more fire?
Coco.
Andy.
I mean, I might be biased because like I have never seen Frozen, and I will.
What?
I am not ashamed. I am not ashamed saying that. I have not seen Frozen 1. I have not seen Frozen 2.
So we know what the next episode is. Episode 5, people. Episode 5.
I do not. I am holding on to not seeing Frozen as much as like you previously held on to like not seeing Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's one of those movies that like when it came out, like when Chipotle came out and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Chipotle is my favorite. Chipotle is my life." I hated Chipotle because of the hype it has, and so I have that same dislike towards Frozen because everyone's like, "Frozen's amazing," and at this point, it's been like I don't know, 10+ years. I have no desire to go, break that bubble and see Frozen.
That was with Squid Game, so that's fair.
Yeah,
it got too
so
big.
but even if I think about it, I think that like Remember Me has like a deeper like meaning and multi-layer. It's a multi-layered song.
Yeah.
Versus Let It Go, which like Let It Go, from what I know of the movie, which is not much, also has some layers to it, but like Remember Me was such like you could not have Coco without Remember Me. Whereas, like, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously you two have seen it, but like, I feel like you could still have Frozen without Let It
Go.
No. Okay, take back everything I just said. But like, I still feel like Remember Me is such an integral part to this movie. That like, I think it's the better song.
Yeah, I think Coco has a more powerful message. But I also think Frozen has a really good message too. Just I feel like it's for different people, different audiences.
And in terms of powerful message, 100% Coco wins. Like that's not a debate, in my opinion. I think when I watched Frozen, it didn't like bring me that level of emotion like Coco did. Not a question. I'm just saying on pure music terms, I think Frozen won. I mean, I think Let It Go, you have to think about how big of a song Let It Go was, bro. Like Yeah, I never heard "Remember Me" being played anywhere. Like, I'm just gonna be real. Like, it's just like I never heard of that song until I watched this movie. Whereas you and everyone you know about knew "Let It Go" before they saw Frozen. Like that song in it. Whereas, like, so I would say, like, to me, like, the song "Remember Me" isn't bigger than the movie Frozen. Like, it just goes hand in hand with it. They work together. They like whatever. Whereas, like, "Let It Go" got way bigger than Frozen was. Like there were people who know the song, who know who Elsa is, and all that, the memes, without ever seeing this movie. And so, in terms of pure music, I do think Frozen takes the cake for original song or whatever. But that being said, Coco ain't no slacker. Like, this is like the music they play throughout this movie is good and solid. And yeah, like some of those last few songs, especially "Remember Me," especially like I think the moment you get "Remember Me" too, like for like the "Let It Go" kind of comes in like early / middle Frozen or whatever and all that stuff like that. Whereas like "Remember Me" like comes in at the very end.
Well, it's kind of throughout the movie.
Is it? It is throughout the movie.
But like, it's really throughout.
The biggest headers are like towards the end. Like, I'm telling you, the ending scene where like he goes in to like talk to Grandma Coco or whatever, and like, you know, the family's trying to get him away and apologize, and he picks up a guitar and starts singing in front of her, and then she starts remembering and telling the story. Like, bro, my face was flooded, dog. My face was flooded.
Something about "Remember Me" that, like, I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure. I maybe you all picked up on. Gil, being a musician, probably picked up on this, but like, was when it was Ernesto's song, it was like a much more like lively, faster paced song. Whereas when it was Hector's song, it was definitely like a slower, like kind of like a love song, like a slower, like just like to the like it was made for the heart, versus like Ernesto's is just like sort of just like that fast-paced, superficial sort of thing. So I think that is just another layer for Coco. But I think if we're looking at like obviously commercial success and like, you know, popularity, like Let It Go Let It Go is arguably the most popular Pixar song. I haven't even seen the movie. I don't even think I've even heard "Let It Go" like fully. Like I've heard "Let It Go" like bits and pieces of the song to know enough to be like, yeah, it's probably the most popular Pixar song of all time. Which, like, I could be wrong, and I will gladly be wrong since I have not seen Frozen. But I feel like with how popular it is, that it's probably up there.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's one of the more popular Pixar songs. So I think it's bigger in that sense. But I feel like Coco, the "Remember Me" song, just it has more potency. Yeah, it has it gets you right into the heart. So that's why I feel like Coco has like the music is more about the emotions behind it all.
And with "Let It Go," it's like a very like her and her sister relationship, right? Elsa and whatever, and I don't know another one. But like, whereas like, sorry, bro, but like, I don't know another one. Whereas like, not everyone's gonna be able to relate to that. Whereas like, almost everyone can relate to like an older family member, you know, who's either not there or maybe on their way out, you know, and like that you like care about or miss or whatever, you know. Like, it's a much more relatable thing, and so, yeah, I think Coco just in general, like I only brought up that comparison because you mentioned that it won an Oscar for Best Original Music. But like just in general, yeah, I think the movie like really did a great job of like showing like culture, you know, a culture that Pixar, you know, doesn't really like normally show, and like really like delving deep into it, the celebrations, the meanings, all that. I even like the part where Hector painted Miguel's face, you know, with all like the dead makeup or whatever, so he could walk among the dead and, you know, and be fine and all other stuff like that. I was like, man, this is sick, you know. And so yeah, no, I think they did their homework, and like once again, the animation, we kind of mentioned it. The animation was top notch.
It was a beautiful, amazing. Like, for those who are watching us on YouTube here, like you can see that like this is a screenshot from the movie. It's a very like beautiful, colorful. They packed this movie with color. Like this was, like I don't know if I've seen a more colorful Pixar film. They just went all out.
It's and I remember watching a movie, a YouTube video years ago, just talking about Pixar and like how they've progressed their animation game with every movie they release. And so I was just kind of looking at this and trying to think about other movies I saw in comparison. I was like, yeah, bro, like this is beautiful level animation. And like, yeah, they really do highlight it with all the colors, dude. Like there's a lot of festivities with like really bright colors and that like dragon bird thing, whatever.
The pizza.
Spirit.
Yeah.
Bro. That thing was lame. And like when it came like snarling at the end towards like that was, oh my god. Yeah, that was good, dude. That was so good. I really enjoyed it.
We need a Pepita Dante spinoff. Like that's the spinoff.
Like a Pixar short.
Yeah, like a Pixar short. Like a 30-minute adventure on, Dante and Pepita.
MT Dante.
Question for y'all, right?
Yeah.
So in this movie, right, we kind of forgive Hector for trying to use the kid in the first place because we find out that the kid's his own family and stuff like that. But let's remember, like, and because we find out he has a whole tragic story background, very tragic. Nevertheless, he did just try to use his kid and fake him out the whole time just to get what he needed and wanted. He wasn't really actually going to help him. And so, how do we?
Well, I'm glad you asked this question because this is another time of me pooping on the movie. But to me, one of the glaring plot holes of this whole movie is that obviously Mama Imelda knew who Hector was, saw the kid with Hector, and did not say anything about it. Like
that, I noticed that too.
This movie would be drastically shorter if Mama Imelda, or I'll even go even further. Miguel said that he's going to Ernesto de la Cruz because he is his great-great-grandfather. Mama Imelda could have just been like, no, he's not. It's actually this one dude named Hector. You should go, like, if you run into
you've been with the whole time.
Yeah, that would have solved the whole movie. It would not have gone as long as it did. So I have bigger beef with the ancestors than I do with Hector because, like, come on, like that should have fixed everything right there.
They don't tell. I mean, he doesn't tell them that he's looking for.
Well, I guess
he does.
Yeah, he didn't tell him he's looking for Ernesto.
I thought
they don't know that till later. He just says that. They don't explain that it's Ernesto. Like, or he doesn't say that to them. So like they don't have a reason to believe that he thinks it's Ernesto.
There was still a moment so I retract that, but like there was still a moment in the movie where, and I remembered this vividly because I remember thinking like all they have to do is just tell them that Hector is the great-great-grandfather. There is a moment where after the Day of the Dead or Land of the Dead like talent show where like the ancestors are there to try to get Miguel, and then Hector and Miguel are trying to run free, and there's a scene where like Mama Imelda catches up with Miguel, but Miguel gets to the other side of the gate so she can't get him, and like at that point you have seen Hector with Miguel. And you could just say, hey, that is your great-great-grandfather. And, like, this entire movie would have taken a complete different turn at that point there. So that is my beef with this movie, is that is the one plot hole that, like, would have solved everything. You just tell him that Hector's there, and then, like, that's it. Because even still, like, you send him back. I guess it doesn't necessarily solve... Well, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily solve Hector's situation because Hector might still die forever. But, it is what it is. But going back to the question of if we should be, how upset we should be with Hector, I think that Hector clearly knew what he was doing and was using Miguel for his benefit. And so like there is some blame to be cast on Hector for what he's doing. I'm not cool with it. I think that was the thing, but like at the same time, it's like maybe there was a path where they could both benefit mutually through this partnership.
Yeah, I mean that was the hope. Is that like we don't know that Ernesto wasn't going to get him to see De La Cruz. He was, but like, or he did lie to him about having like access to him though. Like Hector had to like find a way to get him to De La Cruz, and like he pretty much lied about being able to just get him to meet him. He had to really like
lied multiple times.
But the thing is, we forgive it because we know like. We forgive it because we know exactly like, oh, well, he's his father. He got played in the beginning, or great-grandfather. He got played in the beginning and like all this other stuff like that. So we forgive it because of the tragedy. But it's just interesting to like not forget like, not that he wasn't the bad guy by any means, but he definitely wasn't like the savior that he kind of ended up becoming the last 5-10 minutes. He does end up becoming like almost the not only the victim, but like the savior of the movie too. So like it's kind of
definitely redeems himself in some aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, once it's very clear and obvious that that scene in the, I don't know what best to call it. So the top of Ariel's grotto, where there's just like where like they're saying that they're proud to be each other's family members. I think that is the change in the story arc. I think that's when you go full circle and they're committed to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was purposeful to show that he was a little shady, but yeah, he does make a turnaround. And I think because of that turnaround, he's more accepted in the family, or more willing to be remembered and accepted by everyone in the land of the dead.
Yeah. Now that we're talking about Hector's arc, Marqueze, do you want to kind of talk about how this movie ended?
Yeah, let's do it. So I guess I'm gonna just start kind of like at that big concert scene at first,
Yeah.
Where Miguel, I'll start with Miguel. Miguel is talking to his family about asking his what was her name?
Mama Imelda.
Mama Imelda. So he's talking to Mama Imelda, and he's saying how like he needs to help Miguel, so Miguel can be like, or Hector. Oh my God, Miguel says he's talking to Mama Imelda, saying he needs help Hector, so Hector can be remembered and all this other stuff. And then Mama Imelda doesn't want to help him, blah blah blah. But then Mama Imelda says something that was really great. She says like I'm not going to forgive him, but I'll help him. Once again, this deep trauma. Like I won't forgive him, but I'll help him. I'll help him just because family. Like we're a family. I'm caring about family. I'm going to help him. So it's big. They're at Ernesto's concert, De La Cruz's concert. This kind of big like kerfuffle happens. Mama Imelda ends up singing this like beautiful piece. Blah blah blah. But like the real juicy part of this ending is at the end they're helping out Hector so that he could like finally like cross over and all this.
Yeah, they're trying to get the photo back.
And they get this last piece of this photo back, and then all of a sudden like Miguel finds himself back in the real world, right? He's no longer in like the land of the dead. He's in the real world. And he grabs a guitar and like he's like rushing. He's rushing to get back to like his grandma's house or to his family's house to talk to Mama Coco. And so he's sitting here, and then like he's trying to talk to Mama Coco, like trying to like get her to remember, talking all that stuff. She's not remembering. The rest of the family comes in. They're super mad at him. They're like, "Why are you disturbing your grandmother?" And like all this other stuff. And they're like, "You should apologize," and like no music or whatever. But then he starts playing the Remember Me song, and Grandma
Tears flow.
Oh my! I'm telling you, bro. If you had not already cried, I already started crying probably at least by like the concert scene at that point, right? There's already tears happening here and there, bro. By the time you get to this scene, if you have not cried yet, bro,
you will.
Like, and I think a big part of it is just seeing the change in Miguel, right? Like beginning of the movie, he runs away, and at the end of the movie, he can't run fast enough back home,
right?
To be with his family.
That's a good take,
right? And so he's sitting there. And he's just playing the guitar and playing the song that her dad played for her right before her dad left her, and she never got to see her dad again. And like she starts to remember, and this is the first time in the whole movie where like you see her start to like, really talk and like, like she was forgetting people the whole movie, and now like she's like remembering, and she calls out her daughter by name, and like there's talking to her. Then like the daughter starts crying, bro. It was like heavy, like it is very emotional, but it's very beautiful just to see this family finally start to come together. And then after that scene, you see Hector be able to finally cross over because they finally put his picture on the mantle now, and like he's being remembered as part of the family, no longer like not apart, and so he can finally cross over and have peace now as well. And it's just a very, very, very beautiful moment. And then even before that, I will say, actually, when you're at the concert scene right before I believe Miguel goes back to the real world, and there's all these conditions for him to get the blessing from Mama Imelda. Conditions is not playing music, right?
Yeah.
Because he has grown up and matured and realizing that, hey, there's other priorities than just something I want to do, like music, and that priority is family. She, matures a little and realizes that she can't have her pain be his, and like just because music hurt her doesn't mean music's gonna hurt him. And she kind of she releases that condition of being a condition upon him getting her blessing. And so it's just like this beautiful moment of understanding, not one way but both ways, and yeah, so the movie basically just ends with Hector finally being able to be remembered and cross over. Mama Coco remembering the whole family remembering him reuniting part of family. Miguel's like all fully like it's just this beautiful reunion of family members bringing back love, peace, and understanding with each other. Yeah, and it's as wholesome as it gets.
Ernesto's legacy is also shattered. Like he was exposed during the concert scene, and then like Miguel came. I don't know how it came out to be, but like Miguel must have told the town about Ernesto, and Ernesto's now being forgotten about. So yeah. Good. So I will not subject Gil to, since this is his first episode, I will not make Gil go first. I will go first.
Thank God.
On the prediction. So I will admit that this one was a little bit tougher for me, and like largely because this was a really big cultural film, and the predictions that I was thinking about could be like insensitive to the culture, and like I just was trying my best to not be disrespectful. And so with that, I'm trying my best here, so I don't mean to upset anyone. My prediction, this movie, like Coco 2 takes place in the future, like, maybe like 10, 15 years in the future. Miguel is like a much more established musician. He still has like his family values, like he's a more established musician. And, as we get older, like we always make the comment that like, time moves faster. And so, a year when you're 5 feels differently than a year when you're 30 versus when you're 60, and so on and so forth. So moving along with that principle, that time feels like it moves faster the older you get. In the Land of the Dead, one day, and this is just not fact, this is just my opinion, a day to them is 1 year Land of the Living like timeline. So with that premise in mind, Miguel is a very well-established musician. He's about to go on tour, but he's like bringing his family along with him, and it's gonna be great. And it's now the holiday before they all leave, so it's 6 months from the holiday. That is when the show is. Dante or Pepita steals a lucky guitar pick that he needs to have for his show. Goes back to the Land of the Dead, and now the movie is actually centered around Coco and not Miguel. And Coco, Hector, Dante, Pepita are like trying to find their way back to the land of the living to get the guitar pick back to Miguel. They have a year to do so, which for them is a day. And if they don't get it done in the day, then they go through the forever death. So they have a year from the Dia de los Muertos to return the guitar pick.
Wow.
I like that. Okay. I see you, Andy.
I'm trying my best. I appreciate y'all liking what I'm cooking.
I'd watch that.
Thank you.
You?
Okay, so what I'm thinking for my prediction is we're gonna fast forward to when Miguel is an adult and he has a daughter, and then Abuelita has now passed away, and Abuelita and the daughter were just like they're besties, so she is going through it, and then family's trying to help her out, and then kind of similar to Miguel, she runs from the family, and she kind of stumbles upon the land of the dead. I also think in Miguel's family, music is celebrated, and so everyone in the family now has like a musical talent. And so for the daughter, she can sing, and she's like an amazing singer. And so she's in Land of the Dead, and now she's like, oh, I need to go find Abuelita. And so the movie is kind of similar premise of like Miguel finding Hector, but now it's the daughter finding Abuelita. And then she does, and along the way she finds Mama Coco. They sing Remember Me, but then they also sing a new song called Love Is Forever. And then during that, thank you. Get your tissues out. And then she gets the blessing and she comes back. Oh, you got them. Nice.
You got the tissues ready to go.
Wow. That's beautiful. I like that. That's beautiful. Sounds like Jimmy wrote that one. That's beautiful, bro.
Hey, call me Jimmy.
Call you Jimmy. Cool.
For me, sorry. So my prediction, I would say, is actually Miguel is getting famous, goes on tour, blah blah blah, gets rich, has a family, has a baby, has a daughter.
Okay.
This daughter grows up not musically inclined. Miguel's whole family at this point, it's become like a reverse, right? They're very musically inclined. You know, Mama Melda was musically inclined. Hector was, Miguel is. Everyone is musically inclined now. Now, like, this is a music family. Yeah. But the daughter is not musically inclined, Miguel's daughter. She can't seem to connect with her family or even her culture because she's just not she doesn't feel connected to her family, therefore doesn't feel connected to her culture, and just has this block where she doesn't feel like she's part of the family. And so she escapes, similarly the way that Miguel did, runs away, happens to find herself in the land of the dead somehow. And then while being there, kind of this grumpy, this attitude, this, I can't relate or whatever, starts to find a different way of connecting with the culture, whatever. I kind of like taking the route of, they mentioned her in the movie a couple times, Frida. Right. And so I like the idea that, yeah, her art might not be music, but maybe she paints, she draws, she whatever. Yeah, she finds a different way. She finds a different way of learning how to express herself, learning how to express her pain or her rejection or whatever, right? Instead of just letting it become deeper trauma. And then now she has her own talent that she ends up bringing back to her family. And yeah, I didn't get much further, but
no, that was oh my gosh. That's okay, good. I think okay, so I'm gonna be honest, I liked mine. I thought mine was good. And then I heard Gil's and I was like, oh wow, that actually is really good. And then I heard Marqueze's and I was like, wow, like that, like nothing against Gil. That was really good. Like I actually could see that. I could see that. So that I could see both of y'all.
Bro, we need to get together.
Mine is a bit of a stretch. Pixar, please don't listen to this podcast, or if you do, give us some money for these ideas.
Bro, three of us
will be some consultants.
Three of us can write a fire Coco 2.
Bro,
I think so.
Yeah, we don't need Jimmy for that one.
Listen, I do. We are going to start. So speaking of Jimmy, we are going to do something that we have a new host. We have a new plan for what we're doing for podcasts. We are going to incorporate, we miss Jimmy. And so we want to involve Jimmy on the prediction process. And so we have created, we're super smart. We're good with software, of course. We have created Jimmy AI, and Jimmy is going to tell us what a sequel for Coco could look like. So I'm going to put it into the machine here. What would a sequel for Coco look like?
While you're doing that, I want to add on to Marquise's prediction idea. If the child's gift is painting, they could paint portraits of family members, and I think they could really tie into the remembering aspect.
Yeah, remember.
Right.
But you don't have any portraits or pictures.
Right.
Exactly. Bro. It's an entire surface. It's they lost their photos. They lost their photos. They have paintings now. Maybe that's the explanation. Bro. They don't have any more photos. So
where's our check? Where's our check?
Yo, let me write down an account number and routing number really quick of that check that you just flashed on the camera.
Yeah, I gotta screenshot that real quick.
I know, right? Yo, you might want to edit that out, Marquise. Anyway. So Jimmy came up with a sequel to Coco could explore Miguel's continued relationship with the land of the dead, focusing on his evolving musical journey and deeper connection between both realms. In this new chapter, Miguel, now a young adult, could be faced with new challenges in both the living and spiritual worlds. Perhaps a significant event in his family's life causes a disturbance in the land of the dead, requiring him to travel back there to help resolve a conflict that threatens the harmony between the two worlds. The sequel might introduce new characters from Miguel's extended family, possibly revealing a hidden ancestor or long-forgotten secrets about the Rivera family's past. Along the way, Miguel could learn more about the traditions of Dia de los Muertos, the importance of memory, and how music can unite people across generations. Visually, the sequel could introduce vibrant new settings in the land of the dead and blend cultural elements from other parts of Mexico, all while preserving the emotional depth and musical magic that made the original Coco so beloved. I think
not bad.
It was pretty generic. I like it, but it's pretty generic. So Jimmy, try to cook it up better next time. We appreciate the effort, but try to cook something.
Spend some more time in the kitchen on that.
Exactly. Go ahead and practice some musical notes there. First crack at it. Maybe Jimmy will get better as
next time.
Just getting those juices going.
He's better than us, though.
Listen, nothing's better than us. So this is our first episode back. So for our returning listeners, thank you for coming back to us. I know we've been very inconsistent and non-existent for a while, so we appreciate y'all being here. We hope we are more consistent in the future. For new listeners, thank you for joining us. I think you picked a good one to join us on and join us in conversation. But we are bringing back the popcorn rating scale. So for those who don't know / don't remember, the popcorn rating scale starts out as a small bucket. So think of it as 1 to 10. Small bucket is like a 1 to 3, like not worth to watch. Don't watch it. Like skip it. Don't do it. Medium buckets 4 to 6. Like it's worth to watch, but there are definitely if you have other things, like watch it before this or keep this towards the middle. If it's a large bucket, think 7 to 9. It's a good movie. Should be one of the next movies you watch. And if it's big bucket, 10 out of 10. Stop what you're doing. Grab your guitar. Start remembering this song and remembering this music. Start watching it right away. Like this is like the next movie you need to watch. So since I started with predictions, I would love to have Marquise, tell us This is your first time seeing the movie.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? What's your rating?
First time seeing the movie, I'm gonna give this a solid large. I think this is a solid large. I think this is definitely one of the better Pixar films. It's good. It's good. It's solid. Like I said, my only I wouldn't even say be a knock against it, but reasons it's not a big bucket to me. It's simply just like it is a pretty traditional story. I don't feel like the story or like the arc of the story is super the most unique as much as how they tell the story, I guess, if that makes more sense, or like certain like maybe cultural aspects of it. But that kind of like leaving home, discovering something and having to return, pretty traditional. And then yeah, but like animation was great. Like music was pretty fire, as we talked about. Definitely a tearjerker, great moral lessons for the children. Like it's solid. Like I think this is if you have not watched this yet and you have Disney Plus, you should go watch this. If you have not watched this yet and you don't have Disney Plus, find somebody who has Disney Plus and go watch it. All right, it's solid. You should watch this movie. Gil,
first one.
Mm-hmm. I know. First one. Sheesh. Oh man. I'm gonna give this a big bucket. I really love the message, the pacing, the topics it addressed, the animation. I liked how they used humor in a heavy topic, but also addressed a heavy topic really well. Maybe I'm just caught up in the moment, but I think I'm gonna give this a big bucket. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
That's good. First one, first big bucket. Gotta do it. There you go.
Andy?
I'm very conflicted. I love this movie. I am really so here's the thing. I'm really good at not crying. I'm really good at when it's like an emotional moment, I'm really good at suppressing those emotions and not crying. And Coco got me, and I think it's just I think it's a lot of what I talked about earlier about my family passing away recently and kind of seeing the connection there. I feel like I appreciate the cultural significance of this movie and also just showcasing something that I'm not exposed to on a regular basis. So I think that's really cool. I think I'm going to have to give this as large a bucket as I can give it without being a big bucket. I think
interesting.
The bucket is so large that you're like, is this a big bucket? And then they show you the big bucket and you're like, oh, it's just a little bit smaller. Yeah. I think for me, it's just
I don't know why.
I think just the certain things I talked about it, the whole movie could have been fixed if they just told him that Hector was the great grandfather. That was the biggest plot hole to me. Then just why didn't you just do that? Because then that would just fix everything. But other than that, you have everything that you want in a movie. And it's just absolutely incredible. It's a beautiful movie. The music is great. The voice acting is great. Technically it's sound. It's just a really good movie. And so I give Coco the largest of large buckets you can get at a movie theater.
Wow.
Good go.
That being said, what did you think of our continuation of Coco? Did you agree with us? Let us know in the comments below. Let us know how you think of our new man, Gil. He crushed it. I really thought he did great. So thank you thank you for being here, Gil. We're looking forward to working with you.
I hope I can come back.
Exactly. Hopefully. If you haven't already, follow us on Twitter at Poppin Predict, on Instagram at poppinprediction.pod to let us know your thoughts on how you think the movie should continue. If you're not already watching us, we're on YouTube. You can catch us there. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're at Poppin Predictions on YouTube. Until next time, keep popping, everyone.
Peace, y'all.